It's our WyoPreps Small School Game of the Week here as we get into week 2 of the 2022 season, and we go to Class 1A 6-man for a huge showdown between top-ranked Little Snake River and more than likely number 2 Dubois. Both teams coming off victories in their first official games of 2022, joined by the head coach of the Little Snake River Rattlers, Jack Cobb. And Jack, big win for your ball club last week against Meeteetse, and I guess you guys knew you were the favorite coming in, so how did you think you kind of handled that right out the gate against Meeteetse?
You never know in the first game of the year and being the champs, and you're going to have everybody's best game, and the boys were excited. 3 weeks of practice, and so they was ready for it. And a night game for us, we don't get them very often, so the atmosphere, and I love Meeteetse. It's amazing community. I love the community, love the people there. So good atmosphere, number one. And then the boys came out and played very well. The starters came out and did what they needed to do. We was able to sub in right after the first quarter, and I was impressed with our younger kids. I knew we had a lot of depth, but they really came in and did a lot of good, positive things, throughout the game. And, so for a first game, it was perfect. You couldn't have asked for a better one. We stayed healthy, which is always a plus in the early season games. And so really it was an ideal night for us.
So what do you do coming back to try and improve on what you did in game 1 to get ready for a big one in game 2?
It's more details. Last night we was working on smaller details, more finite things that I saw in film that individuals wasn't doing right. And so if I think I can, make each individual be a little bit better in game 2 and then keep improving. Was it a perfect game? Absolutely not. We still missed blocks. We still missed assignments. And so we was able to talk about that last night and kind of clean some things up and, get more focused on Dubois. They're going to be a different beast than what Meeteetse was able to put in front of us. And they just had injuries too. And they're young again. That's what happens when you lose all them seniors like they did last year. That's small town football. We've all went through it, and Meeteetse just had injuries, and that happens. But, Dubois, that's a different one. You got to be ready.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you look at when you see Coach Tremblay's squad this year? You knew that they were going to be good because they've had that cycle where they're starting to come back up, and they had a great sophomore class last year that's juniors, and then you still got a returning quarterback in Ryan Wells.
Yeah, they're great athletes. Number one, you started with Tremblay, and Wyatt is as good as there is in the state, and he is just dynamic and state champion wrestler. So he's dirty tough. Last year he played with his hand wrapped all year, and he just does not come off the field. Wells, he's just a good athlete. We see what he does in basketball, and then he turns that into football. John Ord is a good player. They're big. They got some size. And then they got talent to go with it. And, Coach Tremblay is as good as they come around the state, whatever class it is. And I've always said, when you play Dubois, it doesn't matter whether they're all freshmen and sophomores like they were a few years ago or upperclassmen now. He's going to bring the best they can bring, and so you got to be ready for Coach Tremblay and Coach Baker and his staff and that team, because they're legit.
Yeah, you got to go back on the road, and so what type of challenges does that present? Good road win, but then right back with an even better opponent on the road.
I think that just comes off a year like we had last year. You kind of expect to have adversity and challenges early on, which I'm honestly kind of like to have that, because I think it was able to get our boys focused, to get ready to go to Meeteetse, who is, last year we had 2 amazing games with them. So, the boys were focused to go to that, and then to turn around and have to go to Dubois week 2, a conference opponent who is, I put them at number 2 and 3 right there with Encampment. Flip the coin on both of them. It's easy to get them focused. I can tell that, because Dubois, you got to show up and play, and being on the road, that's more difficult, honestly. But championships don't come easy, and these boys, that's what the focus is, and they're not, they're not shy about that, and we shouldn't be shy about that. When you win a state championship, you want that same feeling to get back there next year. And I've told the boys they don't hand them out, so you got to go earn them. And Dubois is going to be right in the path. So,
anything that you really stressed to your team this week that might tip the scales in your favor in terms of maybe a big key, Jack?
Well, I think of course you got to concentrate on Wyatt. I mean, Tremblay, he's just good. I think he was preseason, maybe MVP, a 6-man, on Wyoming.com, and he's just a handful. And and typically our offense kind of goes through him. Last year, in the past, they had Max in there. I got to coach him in the All-Star game, and so I know how big and strong he was. And now with him gone, it's going to be a little bit more on Wyatt probably to pick up a little bit of slack. But that Jonah Ord, I mean, that kid, he's a football player. And then you got Wells, dynamic quarterback that can, just athletic. He's tall, lengthy. So you can't concentrate just on Tremblay, but he's the focus, but they have enough other weapons that you better not fall asleep on them. So, I think it's 6-man football to me is the ultimate team sport because you can't hide. You get exposed if you don't do your job. And so I think for us, it just comes down to each and individual. And that's why I told him last night, you do your job. Don't do somebody else's job. And that's what it's going to come down to. We still got to do assignments and do what we are, planning to do. And if we get loose in the game plan and start doing freelancing stuff, they're good enough. They'll hammer us. So,
well, shapes up to be a fantastic game Friday in Dubois. Jack, thanks so much for your time, and I wish you the best of luck.
Appreciate it. Always good to visit with you, David.
Our WyoPreps Small School Game of the Week. We continue the conversation, this time with the head coach of the home team on Friday. It's a big one in Class 1A 6-man. Top-ranked Little Snake River, number 2 Dubois. Pleased to be joined by the Rams head coach, David Tremblay. And Coach, talk a little bit about what you see out of your team. I know you had a little scrimmage action in week 0 to get you a little something in terms of not just practicing and hitting yourselves, but how'd you think game 1 went for you right out the box?
Hewlett came out and came after us hard. It was a good first quarter going. And of course the heat, Dubois, if it's above 60, we're hot. And it was, I don't know, it was around 100. I'm not sure exactly what the temp was, but it was right around 100, and our guys struggle in the heat. And I'm sure Hewlett had a rough time in it too. And so, getting going and we were about halfway through the first quarter, and a couple, I said, "How you doing?" And one of my son actually couldn't answer, and was like, "Okay, timeout." Once we kind of got into the groove and so forth, our guys started reacting really well. It was great, but it was great to have a tough team like Hewlett to start off with and get things going, of course, because this week's going to be a tough one.
What do you come back to practice and focus on after seeing your team in a for real game? What do you look at in terms of improvement from game 1 to game 2? What are you kind of picking on?
We're trying to keep things simple. We talk about, keep it simple and play fast. We're up against the fastest team in the state this week, by far. So we're trying to keep it simple so kids don't have to make tough decisions. It's easy, make it easy for them. And then, just get after it and just use the talent that we have and take on the talent that we're against. And we'll see what happens in the end.
You've got a great junior class. Plus I throw in Ryan Wells, who's a senior returning a quarterback. What can you say with what you've got to build around right now?
We have, I look at the group we have, and when you look at them chemistry wise, I got to think back to when the Bakers and Hawks play, they're cousins, and we had 4 guys on the team that were a cousin, and they just read each other's mind. This group of juniors and seniors have been playing together since they were in 6th grade. With Ryan at the helm, and then we've got Caden and Clayton at tight end and Gavin at center, and they do a great job of blocking. And then on the defensive side, you know, they just play together and they have each other's backs. And you know, that's all you can ask for. And, you know, of course, you know, you want to go out and you want to win games and so forth. But when you watch and see what these kids, you know, where they've come from and what they do, and see the chemistry and the true love of each other, you know, it's really, it just kind of like, okay, get reality set and what's important in life. And it's just awesome to watch them play together.
Talk about Coach Cobb's squad. You mentioned how fast they are, but what do you look at when you see Little Snake River?
Oh, you know, there's, you got Candace, you got Seth, you got Hadley, you got David. I mean, holy cow. There's speed everywhere on defense and on offense. You know, can we contain them? Can we plug their power? And then all of a sudden, then they're going to come out and you know, they're going to have play action or bootlegs, and, you know, and then if they spread us out, who's going where and how are we going to match up? And so there's all kinds of questions that way. And you just, you know, we just got to, like I said, we got to keep it simple. And make sure our guys know what their jobs are well before. And if we can do that and we just play fast, you know, then it's just a game, and we just got to go have fun and play the best team in the state. This is probably one of the best teams that's ever been in 6-man. And so, you know, it's going to be, it's a great challenge. I mean, I love playing against Coach Cobb. We always have a great time. I love coaching with him when we're in an all-star game, but you know, it's always fun to play Little Snake. Doesn't matter if we're here, we're there. They're just a class act, and it's going to be a fun challenge to take on their speed.
Well, I guess the good news is you do get them at home, and it sounds like in a lot cooler conditions on Friday afternoon. How do you take advantage of that? And what do you you mentioned the keeping it simple. Anything that you really stress to your guys before that game?
My favorite saying is water, water, water. But we go, you know, with this, you know, it's supposed to be 56, 60 degrees. That's like half the temperature it was last week.
Yeah.
You know, this week, right now, we're kind of in Dill. We got smoke everywhere from fires from like Idaho, but we got a lot of smoke, a lot of heat right now. So we've just got to be careful and not get them too overheated in practice this week. We got to push the hydration. And then, you know, I'm kind of hoping, you know, we used to have cattle and horses, and when you get that hot summer day and all of a sudden a thunderstorm comes through, and then there's just energy everywhere in all the animals because it's cooled down. So, you know, that's what I'm crossing my fingers for. Just having huge energy because we'll be on the mountain, you know, it'll be 60 degrees at home. That ought to be a fun day.
Coach, thank you so much for your time. Wish you the best of luck on Friday against Little Snake River. Hopefully we'll catch you down the road.
All righty. Take care. Thank you.